5 minutes we start. In 5 minutes we will start the master step 1. 5 minutes. Congratulations to all of you. Very qualified to the master event. In 2 minutes we are going to start the warm up for 10 minutes. After the music stops, the warm up is finished. After the 5 minutes, the 5 minutes have to decide from where to go to start, which day. Mr. Julius and Mr. Chania is going to, they will come to you 5 minutes. And you have to decide. There's no extra 1 minute. Is that clear? The 5 minutes going to decide. After 5 minutes of warm up. When the game starts, we're going to watch 2 games. Total people. Total teams. 2 games, total teams. After the 5 minutes of warm-up, the high season decide from where start. The high season decide. The second game, you will. The second game, you will change. I hope it's clear to all of you.
Mario just mentioned.
It's going to be match play.
We don't play. 1 minute. We don't play.
horas. You may start the warm-up. Good luck to all of you. please. Thank you very much. Very wonderful to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup from the city of Chania in Crete. Final event of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup is the Women's and Men's Masters. The 8 first ladies and 8 first men of the total pinfall of 24 games will compete for the Master Champion title of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup. From lanes 1 to 8 are the ladies, and from lanes 9 to 16 are the men. Starting from lane 1 and 2, Di Martino Giada from Italy is playing against Ivana Krajcic from Croatia. Lanes 3 and 4, the winner of the whole event, Sua Bella from Malta, is playing against Annalisa Balzano from Italy. Lanes 5 and 6, both from Turkey, Adile Sevgi Mikhailov is playing against Gulhan Aksular. And finally, for the ladies masters in lanes 7 and 8, Sara Mizrahi from Israel is playing against Nafsika Deliyani of Greece. In the men's masters that are taking place between lanes 9 and 16. In lane 9, Stavros Parasakis of Greece is playing against Josko Hlede of Slovenia. On lanes 11 and 12, Anže Grabrian from Slovenia is playing against Federico Rossi of Italy. Lanes 13 and 14, Francisco Rodriguez from Spain, who is also the winner of the all event of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup, is playing against Misha Murkovic of Croatia. And finally, on lanes 15 and 16, Stafatos Giannis of Greece is playing against Mark Spiteri of Malta. In this round of the Masters, the athletes will be competing in 2 games, and the total pinfall of both games shall mean that the athlete with a higher pinfall will advance to the next round. In the Master Championship matches in the Mediterranean Challenge Cup, if you advance from this round to the next round, it automatically means that you win the medal, because there is not a bronze medal match. So the losers of the semifinals will both be in the 3rd place. Given the fact that we are still in the early frames of the first game, we can give you the results from the all event for the 8 ladies that are competing in the Masters. Sua Bella of Malta won gold medal. 2nd place from Italy Di Martino Jada, and third place from Turkey, Adil Sergi Mikhailov. These were the three medalists of the all event for the women. In the men's all event, Francisco Rodriguez from Spain won gold medal. Second place was Slovenian Anze Grabrijan, and in the third place was Yanis Stathatos of Greece. Team event that finished about an hour ago here in Chania. Gold medal winner was the team from Malta. Second place was the team from Greece. The third place and bronze medal went to the four athletes of Slovenia. Frames concluded in almost all lanes. In some lanes we already have 4 frames concluded. Here's an early status report on what's going on. In lanes 1 and 2, Di Martino Jada has a solid 30-pin lead in the first 4 frames against Ivana Krajacic from Croatia. In lanes 3 and 4, solid start from Italy's Alisa Balzano, which is up 23 frames, 23 pins in the 4th frame against Suabella. In lanes 5 and 6, between the 2 Turkish female athletes, Gülhan Aksular is up 19 pins against her teammate Adile Sevgi Hayri. 7 and 8, the game between Sara Mizrahi and Nafsika Ligiani. After 4 frames, the Israeli athlete is up 6 pins. And moving on to the men, lanes 9 and 10, Stavr Parasaki against Yoshimar Hode. The athlete from Slovenia with 3 frames concluded is 14 pins ahead. Lanes 11 and 12, 4 frames concluded. Anze Grabrijan is up 10 pins against Italy's Federico Rossi. Lanes 13 and 14. Still playing the third frame. Francisco Rodriguez is tied against Mishe Mrkonic from Slovenia. And finally, in lanes 15 and 16, with 4 frames concluded and now playing the 5th frame, Malta's Mark Spiteri is tied with Stafatos Gianni. Once again, we remind you that the format is 2 games, total pinfall. The best score after 2 games shall advance to the semi-finals of the Masters Tournament here at the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup in Chania on the island of Crete in Greece. Back to lanes 1 and 2. Farana Krajicic against Di Martino Zara of Italy. 6 frames played, 6 frames concluded. The Italian Di Martino Zara is 17 pins ahead. Croatian Krajicic. Lanes 3 and 4. 7 frames concluded. Annalise Balzano has an open frame and then 6 strikes in a row. And is ahead 53 pins against Sue Abella of Malta. 6 frames concluded between the two teammates from Turkey. Gulhan Aksuar is 21 pins ahead of Adilesev Gimhailov, her teammate. Lanes 7-8 with 6 frames concluded. Nafsikadeli Yanni of Greece is 6 pins ahead of Sarah Mizrahi of Israel. Lanes 9 and 10. The Slovenian Josko Hlede is 15 pins ahead of Stavros Parasakis of Greece. Only 5 frames played in lanes 11-12. Anje Grabrijan is 12 pins ahead of Federico Rossi of Italy. 5 frames only played on lanes 13 and 14. With Misha Mrkodic being 11 pins ahead of Francisco Rodriguez of Spain. In the men's event, in the men's games, the game going faster than all the others is on lanes 15-16, Statato Yanni against Mark Spiteri of Malta. Both players have played the 8th frame. And the player from Malta is 16 pins in front of Yannis Statato from Greece. Still 2 frames to play on those 2 lanes. Once again, let me remind you the rules. It doesn't matter who wins the first game. The player that qualifies is the player that will have the highest number of total pinfall after the 2 games that will be played. Moving towards the conclusion of Game 1. First score comes out of lane. A game of 223 pins from Italy's Annalisa Balzano. same pair of lanes, 179 pins. Is the total pinfall for Suave of Malta. One more game to play for the two athletes from Italy and Malta. 44 pins ahead for Italy's Annalisa Balzan. Game 1 on lanes 15 and 16. That is for the men's masters. Stafatos Giannis 189, Mark Spiteri from Malta 221. Game concluded for Nafskadeliani on lane 6, 164. Game concluded. First game concluded for Di Martino Giada on lanes 1 and 2. Score 200 and Rajacic is 165 pins. Only lanes 5 and 6 remain to be concluded for the women. We shall come back with these scores later. Final score for the first game for Parastakis Stavros on lane 9, 174 pins. Final final score for game 1 on lane 12, Federico Rossi 167. Okay, final scores after the first game in the Women's Masters. Di Martino Giada 200. Ivana Krajacic 165. 35 pins for the Italian in lanes 3 and 4. Suabella 179. And Annalisa Balzano 223, 44 pins difference. Between the two Turkish athletes on lane 5 and 6, Kilhan Aksular is 39 pins ahead of Adil Sevgi Mikhailov, 188, 149. And on lanes 7 and 8, Sara Mizrahi from Israel, 194, 30 pins ahead. From Greece with 164 points. Okay, and then the men's. Masters after game 1. Joško Hlede from Slovenia is 53 pins ahead of Savor Parasati from Greece. Their score is 227 pins for the Slovenian, 174 pins for the Greek. On lanes 11 and 12, Anze Grabrijan ahead of Federico Rossi. Scored 211 for the Slovenian and 167 pins for the Italian. On lanes 15 and 16, a 32 pin advantage for Mark Spiteri of Malta after the 221 first game against Stathado Yanni from Greece with 189 pins. Only first game not concluded, medium one shot, is the game on lanes 13 and 14. Final score for the Croatian Misha Mrkovic, 182 pins against Francisco Rodriguez from Spain with 131 pins. A 51 pin difference between the two athletes. So once again, let me give you the first games, starting from lanes 1 and 2 in the women. Di Martino Giada of Italy 200. Ivana Krajacic from Croatia 165. 35 pin advantage for the Italian. In lanes 3 and 4, Suabella 179, Annalisa Balzano 223, 44 pin advantage for the Italian. In lanes 5 and 6, Gülhan Aksular from Turkey 188, Adil Sevgi Mikhailov also from Turkey 149, a 39 pin advantage. And in lane 7 and 8, Sara Mizrahi of Israel has a 30 pin lead over Nafsika Deligeni from Greece. 194 pins for the Israeli, 164 pins for the Greek. Men's scores after game 1. Joško Hlede of Slovenia is 53 pins ahead of Slava Barasaki from Greece, 227 against 174 pins. On lanes 11 and 12, Andrzej Grabriljan is 44 pins ahead of Federico Rossi of Italy, 211 the score for the Slovenia, 167 pins the score for the Italian. On lanes 13 and 14, the Croatian Misha Mrkovic is 51 pins ahead of Francisco Rodriguez of Spain, 182 the score for the Croatian, 131 is the score for the Spaniard. 15 and 16. The game is almost over, and mathematically the outcome cannot be reversed. The player from Malta, Mark Spiteri, advanced over Stafatos Yanis. Also worth mentioning is that on game 2, Mark Spiteri, who scored a 300 game during the team event, is now standing on a solid 8 strikes in a row, attempting actually his 9th try now. Okay, 9 strikes in a row for Mark Spiteri of Malta on lane 15-16. Pin number 9 left, 10 attempt for Mark Spiteri on line 16, so we won't have another 300 attempt for a 300 game. And as we said earlier, Mark Spiteri of Malta advances over Stafatos Yanis of Greece. Okay, so after Mark Spiteri from Malta, second game nearing a conclusion as in lanes 3 and 4. Suabella of Malta against Alisa Balzano of Italy. 44 pins was the advantage of the Italian over the Maltese. Okay, second result. Lanes 3 and 4, Annalisa Balzano advances to the semi-final against Suabella of Malta. Game not over, 1 frame left, but the 44 points difference between the two athletes is more than enough for the Italian. Still on the 6th frame on lanes 1 and 2. But Di Martino Giada advances over Ivana Karadzic, Croatia. 3 frames left. All the Italian needs is 9 pins to shut out Croatia. Okay. Very interesting game on lanes 5 and 6 between the two Turkish athletes. Adile Sevgimikhailov was 39 pins behind after the first game against Aksular Gülhan. I remind you the scores were 188-149 after the first game, but now the leading after the first game athlete is 40 pins behind, which means the game is completely tied after 2 frames, after 6 frames in the second game. So that is still open. Also open is the game on lanes 7 and 8. Sara Mizrahi was ahead 30 pins after the first game against Nafsika Ligiani. At the moment, Nafsika Ligiani has covered 2/3 of the distance. And after 3 strikes in a row, okay, with 8 frames concluded for Nafsika Ligiani and 7 frames concluded for Sara Mizrahi, Nafsika Ligiani has overturned the situation and is now 1 pin ahead of Sara Mizrahi. Okay, really interesting games on lanes 5, 6, 7, and 8 between the leaders. 7 frames concluded on lanes 5 and 6. Lanes 5 and 6 that are also on your monitors. 39 pins was the difference between the two Turkish athletes after game 1. 39 pins in favor of Gülhan Aksular, and now after 7 frames we have a 40 pin advantage in favor of Adilesev Yimkhailov. So 1 frame in total for Adilesev Yimkhailov right now. Still 3 frames to play. Impossible for Nafsika Ligiani on lane 8. An 8th frame, an open 8th frame after a split, 4-9 split for the Israeli, and Sara Mizrahi leaves her at 153.8. Very important 9th frame for Nafsika Ligiani of Greece on lane 7. On lanes 5 and 6, Gülhan Aksular takes the advantage back again with 2 strikes on 7 and 8. And Nafsika Ligiani gets another 20 pins advantage over Sara Mizrahi, now needing only a frame to advance to the semifinals. So once again, Di Martino Giada from Italy and Annalisa Balzano, also from Italy, are the 2 first athletes to advance to the semifinals. Men's events, lanes 9 and 10. Josef Ledev from Slovenia advances over Stavro Parasaki of Greece. Still 3 frames to play, but the result cannot be overturned. In lanes 11, 12. Just 1 frame to play. Anje Dragoyan only needs 1 spare. Next round. Let me remind you, the Slovenian was 44 pins ahead of the Italian after the first game. Game 2 on lanes 13, 14 between the Croatian and the Spaniard. Francisco Rodriguez and Michel Mrkovic. The Croatian was 51 pins ahead of the Spaniard. Difference now is 20 pins in favor of the Spaniards, still 31 pins behind. shout out the Spain-American winner of the whole event. Conclusion of games on lane 11 and 12. As expected after the first game, Zegrabrijan is advancing to the next round against Federico Rossi of Italy. In the ladies event, in the women's event, 246 games from the game from Nasvikada Ligiani is enough to give her the total for her to advance to the next round. Nasvikada Ligiani was playing against Sara Mizrahi of Israel. So actually one game only left. Conclusion, lanes 5 and 6. Gulhana Sular stood and handled the pressure against Adile Sevgi Mikhailov, and Gulhan Aksular is the player that advanced to the next round. So, semifinals of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup. The players that have advanced are Di Martino Giada of Italy, Annalisa Balzano, also from Italy, Gulhan Aksular from Turkey, Nafsikada Ligiani from Greece. In the men's event, in the men's masters, after step 1, Josko Hlede of Slovenia, Zegrabrijan from Slovenia, Misha Mirkovic of Croatia, and Mark Iteri of Malta are the 4 men playing in the semi-finals. The matchups will be announced in a few minutes. We shall have them for you then.
μάνα μου. Κάνεις, καλά. Πού είσαι, εσύ μου λέει θα φύγεις, θα κάνεις, θα δεις. Έπρεπε παιδιά εδώ, όχι.
Okay, for the step number 2, for the ladies. Lanes 3 and 4. Is Nafsakari from Greece against Rushan Akira from Turkey.
3-4.
Lane 5 and 6, it's Annalisa Balzano from Italy and Giada Di Martino from Italy. For men, lanes 9 and 10 from Slovenia, Andrea Brown, and from Croatia, Lizette Gomez. Lane 17 from Slovenia, Josko Hendele, and from Malta, Max Kite. So we have the same procedure as before, 10 minutes warm up, and 5 minutes with the high season player will decide which game to start.
Okay, official results are in. So let me tell you for the story and until the names are written on the monitors so we can start with the semifinals. Step 1 of the Masters and the Women's Masters. Di Martino Giada from Italy, 404 pins. Ivana Krajacic from Slovenia, 296 pins. On lanes 3 and 4, Annalisa Balzano of Italy, 434 pins. Sua Abela from Malta, 396 pins. On lanes 5 and 6, Gulhand Aksular from Turkey, 380 pins. Adile Sergi Mikhailov, 346 pins, also from Turkey. On lane 7 and 8, Nafsikadr Ligiani, 410 pins. Sara Mizrahi of Israel, 375 pins. In the men's event, in the men's step 1 of the Masters event, Klede of Slovenia, 439 pins. Stavro Parasaki of Greece, 354 pins. Anže Grabrian of Slovenia, 422 pins. Federico Rossi of Italy, 380 pins. Lanes 13 and 14, Misha Markovic, 352 pins. Francisco Rodriguez, 297 pins. And finally, on lanes 15 and 16, an emphatic 498 pins from Mark Spiteri of Malta against the 385 pins of Yannis Stachato of Greece. There will be a 5-minute practice session, and then on lanes 3 and 4, Nafsikadr Ligiani of Greece is playing against Gulhan Aksular of Turkey. Lanes 5 and 6, the two athletes from Italy. Di Martino Giada against Annalisa Balzano. So 2 Italians, 1 Greek, Turkish player. The men's Masters step 2, Zek Grabrian of Slovenia against Misha Mrkovic of Croatia. And on lanes 13 and 14, Joško Hlede of Slovenia against Mark Spiteri of Malta. We shall be back with commentation after the 5-minute practice session. Till then, enjoy the music.
almost finished. And we have in lane 3, Chania from Greece. Now, lane 4, Burhan Askular from Turkey. Lane 5, Di Martino Iada from Italy. Lane 6, Balsamo Annalisa from Italy. In lane 9, we have Miche Moskrovic from Croatia. Lane 10, Angel Krapihan from Slovenia. Lane 13, Irene Mark from Malta. In lane 14, Josko Lede from Slovenia. Please don't stop.
Okay, back with live streaming from the step 2 of the women's and men's masters of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup in Chania on the island of Crete in Greece. 2 semi-finals for men and women, with the first semi-final being between Gülhan Aksular from Turkey and Nafskadeli of Greece. Second semi-final on lanes 5 and 6. The 2 Italian ladies, Di Martino Giada against Annalisa Balzano. Men's event, Azek Grambrian from Slovenia on lanes 9-10 against Mishe Mrkovic of Croatia, and on lanes 13 and 14, Joško Hlede of Slovenia against Mark Spiteri of Malta.
This agenda saying 2 days, total people, total points 2 days.
The format of step 2 of the quarterfinal of the Masters event is exactly like step 1. So we have a total pinfall of 2 games. The player with the highest pinfall after 2 games advances to the final. The runner-up, the losers of the semi-finals, both receive the third bronze medal place. Third place in the bronze medal. And after the okay from the technical delegate of the TBF, Mr. Mario Nikolaevi, we are ready to start. Just waiting for the lanes to reset. So action ready to get underway. On your screens, you can see the ladies' semifinals. Nafskadeli against Gülhan Aksular of Turkey, Nafskadeli of Greece, and Di Martino Giada against Annalisa Balzano of Italy. And the 2 men's semi-final. We don't have a camera on this side of the bowling center, but you can see on the far right side of your monitors. On lane 10, Azek Grabrian of Slovenia. On lane 9, Mishe Mrkovic of Croatia. Finally, on lanes 13 and 14, Mark Spiteri playing on lane 14, the athlete from Malta. Joško Hrede. On lane 13, the athlete from Slovenia.
frames concluded in the women's semifinals. Early lead of 24 pins for Gülhan Aksular of Turkey versus Nafskada Ligiani of Greece on lanes 3-4 and on lanes 5-6. And on lanes 5 and 6, Di Martino Giada has a 22 pin lead. 12 pin lead against Annalisa Balzan. Three frames concluded also on the men's semi-final. And early lead for the Slovenian Anže Gravljan against Michel Mrkovic. Lead up to 16 pins at the moment. And on semi-final number 4 frames concluded in this semi-final. Joško Hrede.
Mark Spiteri of Malta. Not a very good start for the athlete from Malta. Joshko Hlede has a 42 pin lead after 4 frames. Joshko Hlede of Slovenia. Five frames concluded in the Italian semi-final on lanes 5 and 6. Di Martino Giada has 12 pin lead against Annalisa Balzano. Five frames concluded in the second semi-final on lanes 13 and 14. Difference 42 pins in favor of Joshko Hlede. A small comeback now from the athlete from Malta, double in Mark Spiteri, double on frames 5 and 6. I'd like to thank Mario Nicolaidi, the technical delegate of the DPBA, for bringing me the ball registration forms of the athletes competing in the semi-final. That would help us. That would help you get an idea of what kind of bowling balls the players are using. In lanes 3 and 4, Nafsika Veligiani and Gülhan Aksular both players using bowling balls from the Ebonite group. Nafskat Ligiani, a staffer for EBI International in Greece, and Gülhan Aksular, a staffer for EBI in Turkey. For Gülhan Aksular, an Ebonite pivot, an Ebonite legacy, a track LX16, an insane antics of Columbia 300, and an energy source, also from Ebonite. For Nafsika Deligiani, the Columbia 300 Eruption Pro, the Ebonite Innovate, the Ebonite Pivot, and the Ebonite Pivot Point. Moving on to the Italian semifinal on lanes 5 and 6, and once again thanks to the ball registration forms given to us by the technical delegate of the ETBF, Mr. Mario Nicolini. I can inform you about the bowling balls used by the two Italian players, starting with Di Martino Giada. A Storm Crooks, Radical, Columbia 300 Smackdown, and Guru Radical, and Annalisa Balzano going all Brunswick for her 6 registered balls for this tournament. Brunswick Hora, Paranormal, Brunswick Frontera, Amelia Cross, Mastermind, and then LT48. Okay, moving over to the men's semifinals, and small opportunity to inform you about the kind of bowling balls the men are using on this tournament. Only 3 first balls registered for the Croatian Misha Mrkovic, and 1 spare ball. The Brunswick Nexus, the Brunswick Aura Hybrid Tour, and also an Elite Eclipse. Angers Gabrielian has also gone all Brunswick for this tournament, like any other tournament. With Brunswick Mela Jab, with the Brunswick Rhino Pro, with the 2 Fronteras, the Frontera Intrigue and the Frontera Exile, and also a Mastermind Skull. The Slovenian Joško Hlede also going with the Brunswick group for this tournament. Brunswick Exile, Brunswick Melee Cross. The second Brunswick Exile. Brunswick Wicked Siege, and for the Radical Yeti, the athlete from Malta, Mark Spiteri, going with two Storm Bowling Balls and two Motive Bowling Balls, the Motive Jackal and the Motive Primal Rage, and the Storm Crux Pearl and the Storm Fusion IQ. First scores coming in from the ladies on lanes 5 and 6. 23 pins from Di Martino Giada. That is 43 pins ahead of Annalisa Balzano. Both athletes from Italy. Game almost over in lanes 3 and 4. Really close after the first 9 frames. Turkish Gülhan Aksular is 6 pins ahead of Naskadelian of Greece. We'll be back with the final scores of game 1 in these lanes that are on your monitors. Let's move over to the men. 10 frames played on both men's semi-final. Misha Mirkovic against Anze Grabzijan of Misha Mirkovic of Croatia against Anze Grabzijan of Slovenia. A 49 pin lead for the Croatian against playing the 10th frame, both players. Last semi-final, but not least, of course, the Slovenia versus Malta. Joško Hlede against Max Spiteri. The Slovenian working on 45 pin solid lead against the bowler from Malta. Still no final scores in the 3 of the 4 semi-finals. With extra frames played on the men's, on both men's semi-final. Have the scores with you in a minute. Official result coming in right now on our monitors of the semi-final between Martino Giada and Annalisa Balzano is 223-180. Lanes 9 and 10. 208, 179. 208 pins for Mirkovic of Croatia, 179 pins for Grabrijan of Slovenia. One more shot left for the semi-final on lanes 13 and 14. Final score for Spiteri of Malta, 157 pins. And a double for Josko Hlede gives a 59, approximately 59 pin advantage over the bowler from Malta. One result, final result, 216 pins for on lanes 3-4. Gülhan Aksular is 216, Nafsika Deligiani 197, 19 pins the difference between the two athletes. The second game of Step 2 of the Masters is underway for all four semifinals, both women and men. And four frames already concluded on lanes 5 and 6 between the two Italian athletes, Giamartino Giada and Marzano. After the 43 pin lead of Giamartino Giada, every frame moving closer to the final of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge of 2015. She now holds another 20 pin lead over her teammate, taking the difference up to 60. 3 pins between the two athletes, only 6 frames to play. Great start on lanes 3 and 4 for Gülhan Aksular of Turkey against Nafsika Deligiani of Greece. Turkish athletes starting with a double. Let me remind you that the difference between the two athletes in game 1 was 19 pins. Only 2 frames concluded in lanes 3 and 4. That moves the difference between the two athletes at 29 pins in favor of Gülhan Aksular from Turkey. Still a long way to go, 8 frames remaining. lanes 5 and 6, the 63 pin went 63 pin difference just moved to 74. 5 frames to go, 74 pins. Di Martino Giada on her way to the Women's Masters final here at the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup in Chania. Moving on the side of the men's masters semi-finals, let me remind you we had a 59 pin difference on lanes 13 and 14 between Joško Klede and Mark Spiteri of Malta, Joško Klede of Slovenia. Only 2 frames played in the semi-final, but even though the 59 pins the bowler from Malta was trailing are now down to 37. Good start from the bowler from Malta in the first 2 frames. The first 3 now. Starting out with 3 strikes. 1 strike and 1 open frame for the Slovenian. So 59 minus 32. Difference down to 27 pins at the moment, and we got ourselves a game. We also got ourselves a game in 9-10, lanes 9 and 10 with Misha Mrkovic of Croatia leading by 29 pins. Anže Grabžiljan of Slovenia. Very good start from the Slovenian in this second game in the first 3 frames. 4th frame coming up, working on a double, already chopped off 10 pins of the 29 difference, now down to 19, and they can go down to 9 if he strikes his 4th frame. Double on frame 6 and 7. Lozano takes the difference back again to 63 pins against Di Martino Giada. And on the other semi-final, lanes 3 and 4, 19 pins difference of the first game, still up to 27. It's 28. In favor of Ilham Aksular from Turkey. Only 3 frames remaining on lanes 5 and 6. We'll be back here with the final results and still 6 frames to play on the other semi-finals on 3 and 4. Okay, semi-finals between men. We have the 2 athletes trailing after game 1, now in front in the first frames of game 2. Lanes 9 and 10, 5 frames played. The 29 frame difference between Anže Grabžiljan and Misha Mrkovic of Croatia is now down to 9. Very good game by both players. 1 spare and 4 strikes. the Slovenian spare strikes, sparing two strikes in for the Croatian. So less than 10 pins the difference between the players. 7 pins now for the Croatian, takes the difference down to 7 pins now. On lanes 13 and 14, we had a 59 pin difference between the other Slovenian, Joško Hlede, against Mark Spiteri of Malta. 4 frames played for the bowler from Malta, 4 strikes. 1 strike and 2 open frames as a result of 2 splits for the Slovenian. In the first 4 frames he has 9 pins now working on the frame. A new open frame on lane 13 from Joško Hlede. So, the 59 pin difference the two players had after game 1 has now turned in favor of the athlete from Malta. Mark Spiteri starting his game with 4 strikes. The Slovenian Joško Hlede starting his second game with a strike and 3 open frames. So, approximately 10 pins in favor of the bowler from Malta at this point. New strike from Anje Grabijan. 1 spare and 5 strikes. The fifth strike in a row from Anje Grabijan gives him a few pin lead in the total of the 2 games over Misha Mirkovic, who is now facing the tough 4-spin spare conversion. Back to the ladies. Still a frame to play, but mathematically over. Di Martino Giada is the first player we know that will advance to the final of the Masters here at the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup. Bronze medal for Annalisa Balzano, both athletes from Italy. Six frames played on lanes 3 and 4 between Nafsika Deligiani and Gülhan Aksular from Turkey. The difference, total difference until now between the 2 athletes is 42 pins in favor of the Turkish bowler versus Nafsika Deligiani of Greece. So, 1 finalist already concluded, Di Martino Giada of Italy. Solid lead for Gülhan Aksular of Turkey. That in the women's event, and continuing his comeback on lanes 9 and 10. Now working on the lead, expanding a lead. Anje Grabijan Slovenian against athlete from Croatia. Clawed back the 29 pin deficit of the first game. Now bowling on approximately 40 pin lead. Remind you, the second game of the Slovenian is a spare on the first frame and then 6 strikes in a row. Very interesting semi-final on lanes 13 and 14. Let me remind you once again, 59 pins was the difference between the Slovenian Josko Hlede against Mark Spiteri of Malta. The second game has we have played 6 frames, and the difference is 55 pins in favor of the bowler from Malta. So combining the 2 games up to now, we have 4 pins in favor of the Slovenian. Still really close to call. 7th strike in a row for Aze. Let us give you the final score on lanes 5 and 6. 177 pins for Di Martino Giada. 3rd place for Annalisa Balzano, 170 pins. The total 400 pins for Di Martino Giada, 350 pins for Annalisa Balzano. Seventh frames concluded on semi-final on lanes 3 and 4 between Gulhan Aksular and Nafsika Diligiani. 22 pins and 19. That's a 41 pin lead for the Turkish athlete. Just 3 frames to go. Over to the men's semi-finals. So returning for a 29 pin deficit after game 1, Anje Grabjian is the first man to advance to the final of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup. Bronze medal for the athlete of Croatia, Misha Mrkovic. And also we have 2-3 frames to play on lanes 13-14, so a long way to go. Still really close to call. Both players between 4 to 5 point difference in the two games. Women's semi-final. The difference was 42 pins in favor of Gülhan Aksular, but open frame of 6 and 1 pins on frame 9 gives Nafsika Liliani a chance with a strike to get back into the game. No strike for Nafsika Liliani. That leaves Gülhan Aksular with just needing 5 pins on her 10th frame to advance to the final. Open frame from Nafsika Liliani. Gülhan Aksular is the second woman advancing to the final of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup. So the first final will be between Italy's Di Martino Giada and Gülhan Aksular of Turkey. Bronze medal winners Nafsika Liliani of Greece and Annalisa Balzano of Italy. Over to the men's semi-finals. As you remember, we have the first semi-finalist, who is Anje Grabrijan, coming back from a 29 frame deficit. A really good game, a 290 game, second highest of this Mediterranean Challenge Cup. 7 spare and then strikes out the remaining of the game. He was 29 pins behind, won the game by 93 pins. On the last semi-final on lanes 13 and 14, let me remind you once again, the Slovenian Joško Hlede was 59 pins ahead after the first game. With a fantastic second game, Mark Spiteri of Malta has not only called back himself into the game, he has worked back here all 59 and is now ahead of Joško Hlede. Still 1 frame remaining. Okay, so 1 frame remaining. The 10th frame of Mark Spiteri was a 9. So this means that if Joško Hlede strikes out, Mark Spiteri needs 9 spare strike to advance. He got the 9. He got the spare. Game concluded.
It's concluded. So, on lanes 13 and 14, Max Piteri of Malta has shutted out Joško Hlede of Slovenia. Maximum 169 and 59. The difference adds up to 228. At the moment, Max Piteri's score on the board is 229. That means that the men's final is the bowler from Malta, Mark Piteri, against Tanze Grabrian of Slovenia, and the women's final is Gülhan Aksular of Turkey against Di Martino Giada of Italy. We'll have conditioning of 8 lanes that will be needed for the finals. They won't be all needed for the finals, but we condition 8 lanes for the finals, keeping spare lanes just in case something happens. We'll also have a practice session. So we'll be back with you in a short while with the finals of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup in Chania. Naskari Ligan is saying that she was very tired, couldn't even throw the ball. Telling Adila that she was very tired. Are you tired, Adila?
Of course, definitely, yeah.
Happy for your teammate.
Honors. Oh, yeah, they're now together. They're 2. You know, she's playing doubles. She's playing doubles with a little girl.
Okay, that's not fair. It's 2 against 1.
Yeah.
Okay, good luck to your teammate and congratulations for a very good Mediterranean Challenge Cup from the Turkish team. So, that concludes the semi-final. We would like to thank Adila Sergei Mikhailov for the short comments, and we'll be with you in approximately 20 minutes with the finals.
Just before the finals, congratulations to the bronze medals. Immediately after the final of the master, we will have the ceremony award all the medals from yesterday. The final of the women will be lanes 3 and 4, and of the men 5 and 6. We will do a short break for lane maintenance, and as soon as the lane maintenance finish, we start the finals. Thank you. Dear friends, can I get your attention for one moment? Please, just for a moment. Before we are leaving this beautiful bowling center, and I assume that they will not be with us, I think that the staff from the bowling center that deserve a big applause for what they have done. Thank you very much. And especially the assistant behind the computer. Yeah, give a big applause. Yeah, give a big applause.
And the technical delegate, a big applause.
dışarı çıkayım ya bir şey istemiyorum. Nasıl olsa yağlama olacak değil mi?
Altı tane yağlayacak en az nereden baksan. 10 dakika falan.
Muy pericoloso, muy pericoloso, muy pericoloso.
Yo voy muy super larga.
Kaldırıyorlar götürünce unutmaz. Şuraya Orada bir yer yapmışlar. Kapısal çekim. Sabah çekim.
Bir sonraki yağlamaya hazır olsun diye kokmasın.
Daha bu gece park müsait atıyorum. Gidene verecekler. Sen o 2 ayda yapacaksın. O boşaltmak çok önemli.
In 5 minutes we start the finals. In 5 minutes we start the finals. At lane 3-4 we have the women, at 5-6 we have the men. Both finals going to play at the same time. Thank you.
Ne oldu? Ben anlamadım, dinlemedim.
Okay, we have the finals of the master event. Lanes 3-4 and 5-6. I wish you good luck. It's 2 games. Go back and forth. You have 10 minutes of practice.
Oh, president. It's president, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Mark, now you can shout boom.
I can.
You can shout boom.
In
no
your
problem.
ears?
Yes.
Yes, all right.
And we have in lane 3 from Italy, Di Martino Chiata. In lane 4 we have from Turkey, Burhan Aksular. In lane 5 we have from Slovenia, Andrzej Graprian. And from Malta, Celestine Mar.
I hope it will be on the list now.
Good luck to all of you.
We are back with the finals of the men's and ladies tournament here in the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup in Chania. Finals on lanes 3 to 6 with lanes 3 and 4 for the ladies. Di Martino Giada against Gülhan Aksular of Turkey. Di Martino Giada from Italy. The men's final on lanes 5 and 6. Andrzej Grabrigan from Slovenia against Mark Spiteri of Malta. Two players playing in the finals also of Slovenia, scoring a game of 290 pins. One spare and one open frame for Mark Spiteri in the men's final. 1 strike and 9 pins now for Anze. Working on his spare conversion. In the women's final, we have 3 frames concluded. Strike, spare, strike for Gülhan Aksular of Turkey. 7 spare, 9 spare, and strike for Di Martino Giada from Italy. A 1 pin advantage for the Italian bowler. Frame number 3 for Mark is strike. So spare, open frame, strike are the 3 first frames for Mark Spiteri. A double on frames 3 and 4 for Italy's Di Martino Giada. Pins with the 7 pin left standing for Anze Grabrijan of Slovenia, who is ahead 12 pins against his opponent from Malta. Open frame from the Slovenian bowler. Strike, spare the first 4 frames for Gülhan Aksular from Turkey. 5th frame in the women's final, 4th frame in the men's final. Spare for Mark Spiteri. Anze Grabrijan 48, Mark Spiteri 47 in the 3rd frame. So, halfway through the first game of the women's final, the Italian bowler Martino Giada has 8 pin lead over format for the final is the same as the rest of the steps of the Masters Championship. It's 2 games, total pinfall. So the bowler will score most pins in the 2 games combined will be the winner of the Masters Championship of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup 2015. With the ladies being 1 frame ahead of the men. Ladies playing the 6th frame. The men haven't concluded their 5th frame right now. Brief score update. The score for Mark Spiteri was 73 pins on the 5th frame. A possible 98 pins on the 5th frame from Anze, giving him an early lead of 25 pins. Spare on the 6th frame for Di Martino and the 7th frame, 7th spare for Solar. Leads to a 10-pin lead for the Italian bowler and the ladies. Turn for Anze Grabrijan to play on lane 6, working on a double on frames 4 and 5 with a possibility to extend the lead. Heavy pocket hit, strike nevertheless. Takes the lead up to 35 pins. 35 pins, 6 frames in the game. A strike for the Italian with a late number 6 pin fall. Frame 7 for Gulhan. A high hit on the head pin results in a 6-pin fall. Which makes the deficit from her opponent to 14 pins. Conversion in the 7th frame for from the bowler from Reno, and at the same time an open frame on the 7th frame for 200 Solar of Turkey lane 3. Lane 5, Anze Grabrijan. 3 strikes in a row, frames 4, 5 and 6. 4th frame now, building on a solid lead, up now to 45 pins. Approximately 45 pins. Lane 3, Nojada. lane 5 for Mark. Pins on lane 4 for Gilhan. With Gilhan Aksular having to convert a spare with a 4-pin on lane 4 in order to conclude the 8th frame of the first game of the final for the ladies. An open frame. So the score of 130 pins on the 8th frame for Gulhan Aksular. A score of approximately 166 pins on the 8th frame for Timotino Jada. That is a 36-pin lead for the Italian bowler. And open frame on lanes 5 and 6 for Anja Grabrijan. 8th frame with 160 pins. Working on his 9th frame, coming from a strike on the 8th. A chance for the bowler from Malta to claw back the difference. So here's the double. Double on the 8th and 9th frame. The difference now 28 pins. Grabrijan, the ladies final, we have another spare attempt, spare conversion attempt. This time it's the first open frame for Di Martino Jada. A chance for the bowler from Turkey to pick up 11 pins, dropping the difference to an approximate 24 pins. Also on the 10th pin for Gulhan Aksular. Difference between the two lady bowlers, 24 pins in favor of the Italian. All 4 players striking on the 10th frame. Extra frames now, 11th frame. A double. Watching strikes all over the place right now. 3 consecutive strikes for Mark Spiteri. 4 now. well, but finishes with 4 strikes in a row, possibly 5. Still one more frame to play. One more shot to play per frame. Both men striking out their games. One more shot to play for both. And we have the final score after the first game of the ladies' final. 201 pins for Di Martino Giada, 169 pins for Gulhan Aksular. 32 pins in favor of the Italian bowler. One more shot for the first game to conclude in the men's final. Final score of 17 pins for Anze Capirijan. 201 pins for Marks Perry. 16 pins is the difference between the two men bowlers. Let me remind you that at some point during the 5th frame, the Slovenian bowler had a difference of 45 pins. Marks Peteri clawing back, fighting back, and now the difference is 16 pins between the two. So 32 pins the difference in the women's final, 16 pins the difference in the men's final. First shot of the second game. In the finals, a split conversion. The 310 pin from Marks Peteri. And second up, Anje Graprijan on lane 6. Strike for Anze. Pin difference remaining. Women have sorted out which lane they should play on. Di Martino Giada on the left lane. 32 pins ahead after the first game. First frame, a 4-6-7 split. And, here's a chance for Gulhan Aksular to chop a little bit off the difference between the two bowlers after the first game. First frame, a strike. Strike also on lane 6 for Marks Peteri. For Di Martino Giada. Difference now 21 pins between the two bowlers. strike on the first frame, and now his second attempt on lane 5 for Trapejan. Outcome 9 pins, leaving the 7 pin standing. A new split on lane 4, the 3-9-10 pin split. Not an impossible split, but a really tricky split for a right-handed bowler. 2 strikes in a row for Gilhan Solar. Possible open frame here will give the opportunity to the Turkish bowler to actually tie the series. So open frame it is. We have a tied game in the women's final after the 12 first frames. 10 in the first game, 2 in the second. The 32 pin difference that the Italian bowler has been cut back by the Turkish bowler. So 8 frames to go. All is even in the women's final. In the men's final, strike spare for the Slovenian, spare strike for the bowler from Malta. Keeps them in the 16 pin distance created in the first game. Third strike in a row for Gilhan Aksular. Gilhan Aksular that now actually finds herself in front of her opponent in the combined score of the 2 games. An advantage of approximately 10 pins. 32 pin deficit converted into an almost 10 pin advantage in 3 frames. Take number 3 for Anže in the second game, 9 pins. And that's news, a third open frame, a third consecutive open frame for the Italian, Di Martino Giada. Gives an even bigger advantage now to Gilhan Aksular after 3 frames played. From minus 32. Now the bowler from Turkey is up approximately 20 pins. Fourth strike in a row. Fourth strike in a row. Ball released on the wrong side of the head pin, but a strike nevertheless. Counts exactly the same. It was from Anže Grabrijan. This game, after 4 frames concluded for the men, is tied. So we go back to the first game difference with Anže, the Slovenian bowler, 16 pins ahead in the final. Spare conversion for Gülhan Aksular with a score of 109 pins on the 4th frame and a spare on the 5th frame. Strike on frame number 5 for Mark Spaghetti. One more try for Martina Jada. Looks like she's found a way. Martina Jada coming back with a strike on the 5th, both on the 5th and 6th frame, a double. Very interesting finals both. First double in the men's final for this second game comes from Anže Grabrijan. Takes the difference to 26 pins now. 5 frames played in the men's second game, 26 pins ahead for Anže Grabrijan from Slovenia versus Mark Spaghetti of Malta. Frame number 6 underway. Eight pins from Mark Spaghetti. And pin number 5 left on the pin deck for Gülhan Aksular. Spare converted. .30 pin difference right now in favor of the bowler from Turkey, Gülhan Aksular. 6 frames played in the women's final, and an open frame from Mark Spaghetti on the 6th frame gives a huge advantage now to Anže Grabrijan of Slovenia. Let me remind you that Anže is coming from a double on the 4th and 5th frame. Women's final. Come back from the Italian. Another strike. 3rd strike in a row. 30 pins becoming 20. Okay, men's final. 6 frames played. 120, approximately 128 because he has a spare, and 105. Difference between the two men is 23 plus 16, 39 pins advantage from Anže Grabrijan. Just 4 frames to play. In the women's final, Gülhan Aksular makes a mistake, loses 1 pin, and now has 156 pins on the 7th frame. Di Martino Giada is coming with 3 strikes. 3 strikes on frames 5, 6, and 7. Okay, 4th strike in a row. 4th strike in a row versus the open frame. We have the difference is 2 pins again in favor of Di Martino Giada. Di Martino Giada was 32 pins ahead after the first game, found herself 30 pins behind during the second game, but now 4 strikes in a row in accordance to an open frame and 2 spares by Gülhan Aksular have given us a really tight match in the women's final. Just 2 pin difference, the advantage definitely right now in the Italian bowler that comes with 4 strikes in a row. Strike on the 8th frame for Gülhan Aksular. So just 2 frames left in the women's final. Two-pin advantage for the Italian bowler. 2-pin advantage that can become a 12-pin advantage if she strikes on the 9th frame, given the fact that she's coming with a strike. They're both coming with a strike on the 8th frame. Wrong strike, but no wrong side of the head pin, but no one will remember after it. 5th strike in a row.
All it says is X. It doesn't say LX. RX.
12 pins.
If she was a left-hander, it would be on the wrong side.
Sitting here with Mario Nicolai, the technical delegate of ATBF. Mario, how's the tournament?
Everything under control. I'm glad with the finish and ready for the party.
Okay, good. Chania nice as always as a bowling center.
I find it excellent. Very good condition.
One of the bowling centers that actually all bowlers that have been here love to play. Game not over. New strike for Gülhan Aksular takes the difference again down to 2 pins. Just 1 frame remaining. We're sticking with the women's final because nothing much is changing in the men's final. Both men are sparing out the last 2-3 frames. Solid lead for Anje Grabrijan of over 30 pins. Just 2 frames remaining for Mark Spiteri. Tenth frame is 9 pins for Di Martino Giada. Di Martino Giada having now a 1-pin advantage over Gülhan Aksular. Okay, 10th frame for Gülhan Aksular. A strike means she wins the Masters. There it is. very close final for the ladies. One shot remaining for Di Martino Giada. 185 pins right now. 185 pins plus a possible extra 10 now on this shot. Gets a 9. That's 194 pins in this game, plus the 32 pin difference of the first game. Leaves Gülhan Aksular with a magic number of 227, with a goal of 227 pins to be Masters Ladies Champion of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup in Chania. One more strike. 236 pins right now. Still one shot to play. And the final game for the women concluded. Gülkan Aksular of Turkey as the Masters Champion of the 18th Mediterranean Challenge Cup. Not much changing in men. 23 pins on this game and 36 on the 13 and 16 on the game before. 26 and 13, 39 difference. With Angel Grabrijan ahead.